Yesterday, Edward Martin, who's the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, he put out a statement, quote, "As President Trump's lawyers, we are proud to fight to protect his leadership as our president, and we are vigilant in standing against entities like the AP that refuse to put America first." It sounds rather tyrannical and stupid. There is no reason to do that sort of stuff.
Agreed. Totally agree with Ben Shapiro, who called out the Trump administration for a move that he believes went too far and did call tyrannical and stupid. So what exactly did the Trump administration do? Well, as we have covered previously on this show, the Trump administration is feuding with the Associated Press over the dumbest thing imaginable. Remember, the Associated Press isn't just a news agency here in the United States. It is a wire service, meaning they provide coverage of events worldwide, okay? It's a wire service internationally speaking. So when it comes to something like renaming the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America, well, Trump doesn't have the ability to just unilaterally change the name. And so the Associated Press, being an international news wire service, is gonna stick to the internationally recognized name, which is the Gulf of Mexico. Trump doesn't like that. He's whining about it. And in response, the Trump administration has banned the Associated Press from the White House, the Oval Office, and Air Force One, essentially punishing them for doing their jobs accurately as an international newswire service. The AP, by the way, is now suing the Trump administration, including Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Now let's watch Ben Shapiro as he admits that the Trump administration might not come out on top in this legal battle.
The reality is that if the White House said the reason that you're ousted is because you won't say the things we want you to say, probably the White House loses in court on that, because that would presumably be a First Amendment violation. What they actually should just say is, listen, we're not even gonna give you a reason, right? The White House under Joe Biden didn't include any of the alternative media at all. And we're gonna treat all media equally, which means the AP does not get a leg up on, say, the Daily Wire or Breitbart or Daily Caller or anybody else in the online media. However, if you want to lose the sort of momentum that Trump has, and this is, again, I'm concerned with this because I want to see President Trump victorious. Distractions are the enemy.
Yeah, but this isn't just a distraction, Ben, and he knows that. He knows. I mean, Trump can't stand any media that doesn't go along with whatever narrative he's trying to push out there. And if AP is unwilling to play ball with his unilateral renaming of the Gulf of Mexico, he does want to be a tyrant and essentially punish them for that. And that's wrong. We're supposed to have freedom of speech. And by the way, I also agree that the White House is not obligated to give everyone access to White House press briefings, the Oval Office and all of that. I agree with that. However, don't downplay this as, something less concerning than what it really is. This is tyrannical and this is wrong. Punishing the Associated Press and going after them viciously because they're not playing ball with Trump is wrong.
Yeah, with your bizarre propaganda.
Yeah.
That Trump is obviously using to distract people from other things that he's doing. Like, nobody thinks he actually deeply wants it to be called the Gulf of America. It is deeply disrespectful to his voters. It's disrespectful to the people that will think this is stupid, but it's more disrespectful to the people who will think it's a good idea because he's playing them. You do not do stuff like this to people you actually care about and respect. And Ben, of course, is not acknowledging that. I agree with most of what you said. I think that I'm glad that he is calling it out for being looking tyrannical and covering it all. He doesn't have to cover it all. I think he loses credit when he frames the entire thing as this is only bad because it could be distracting. And I agree with you, exactly. That is not the only reason that it's bad. And it's super weird that the only thing that bothers you is that this looks tyrannical, not that he's doing tyrannical things.
Yeah.
That he is not respecting the Constitution, the separation of powers. He's defying what the judges have already ruled. These are not things that look tyrannical. These things are tyrannical, and that's the issue. And then pretending that the AP and Breitbart are the same thing, that's ridiculous. Look, I would love for Joe Biden to have let TYT in or whatever. But I also don't think that it's the exact same thing as having, again, an internationally very necessary wire service that provides news. It's picked up by and used by literally thousands of our news services. It's obviously not the same thing. Stop playing playing games like that.
Yes.
And so,
well, maybe Ben Shapiro can redeem himself because it's not all he said. So the Trump administration then tripled down, which led to Shapiro stating that they would absolutely lose a court battle. On Monday, Ed Martin, the interim US attorney for Washington, D.C., posted the statement that we played in our video at the start of this segment. So here it is again. It reads, as President Trump's lawyers, we are proud to fight to protect his leadership as our president, and we are vigilant in standing against entities like the Associated Press that refuse to put America first. Okay, so that is not what his role in the federal government is supposed to be. Essentially, providing cover for Trump, protecting Trump. That's not what their role is supposed to be, number one. But even more concerning is this announcement that they're going along with Trump in wanting to essentially punish the Associated Press. And that, by the way, got hit with the following community note. The duties of each US attorney's office as defined by 28 US Code 547 are prosecute federal crimes, present the United States in civil actions, and collect debts owed to the federal government which are administratively uncollectible. Here's Ben Shapiro explaining how that statement could actually sink the Trump administration's case in court.
That is just conceding the actual legal case. Because if the case that you are making is that the media have to reflect the perspective of the president of the United States to be given access, you're gonna lose in court. Also, it sounds rather tyrannical and stupid. There is no reason to do that sort of stuff.
But they're gonna do it anyway, because there are no brakes on this car. And so any of our norms, any of our separations of powers, like all of that stuff has been thrown out the window under this new Trump administration. And by the way, we wouldn't put money on Trump or anyone on his team listening to Shapiro. In fact, today, Trump stated that media outlets that use anonymous sources should be sued. So how's that for press freedom? He says, as a president who is being given credit for having the best opening month of any president, and okay, all right. Anyway, I'm not gonna read all that. You get the point. He doesn't like that sometimes anonymous sources provide statements to journalists anonymously because they're fearful of retaliation from their bosses or from government agencies, from Donald Trump specifically. Yeah. So he's now going to go after reporters who use anonymous sources.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Can we bring up that tweet for one sec? Because I think there's an interesting thing in there where he's like, you can't use anonymous sources. But he does start off by saying, as a president who's being given credit for having the best opening month of any president in history, sorry, buddy, you didn't cite your sources. Who said that? I'm gonna sue you unless you divulge who said you had the best month ever. And then he also says in the middle of that, I'm going to, at some point, I'm gonna sue some of these dishonest authors and book publishers, or even media in general. I'm just gonna sue media in general for doing this sort of thing. And again, Ben Shapiro doesn't get to be surprised by this. Donald Trump has been utterly hostile to the press this entire time. He has no respect for the First Amendment. This is not new. Yeah,
I totally agree with you. Look, Trump has hated the media consistently. He has tried to punish the media consistently. He has succeeded in getting some of the billionaire media owners like Jeff Bezos to heel before him like a little bitch. But any thought that we're talking about a guy who actually values constitutional protections like freedom of speech and freedom of press, he doesn't. He's made that clear. And now he's got a cabinet full of all sorts of individuals who are willing to play along with his unconstitutional acts. The only question is, will the courts hold? He has lost some federal court cases so far. He's won a lot of them though. And as these things kind of get challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court, there are some questions about whether those Supreme Court justices are gonna go along with what Trump wants as well. We'll see. But I will say, Amy Coney Barrett, who I was probably the most worried about, has been the most against Trump in some of her rulings. So we'll see what happens with some. So we'll see.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.